Hi everyone, welcome to DevOps Summit 2023. Let's inspire, get engaged. Today's the session is on unleashing the power of Code Whisperer, and we will see how you can build applications faster with an AI coding companion like Code Whisperer. My name is Kranthi Manchikanti. I am a cloud solutions architect at AWS, and let's get through the agenda today. So today we will go through some of these developer current challenges that we are facing today, as well as an introduction to Amazon Code Whisperer, an overview of it, some of the benefits associated, and the features to it. We will explore some of the use cases, how and where developers can use the Code Whisperer today, as well as some of the customer examples, how they have benefited from Code Whisperer. We will also explore on how you can immediately start using Code Whisperer in your development workflows. So moving ahead, right? So let's see why do we need something like an AI coding companion for developers today, right? So organizations are facing several hurdles when trying to quickly write code for applications. Not only is there a shortage of developers worldwide, developers do not get enough focused time to work on important business problems without distractions. So for the time they do have to spend on writing code, developers face additional hurdles in terms of significant portion of their time manually developing code that is which could be straightforward and undifferentiating. Think of all the time the developer today spends on unit tests, writing, making sure those work fine, and even those string manipulation tasks like processing these loops or lists, or even, for example, working with the files, uploading them to some repositories, and even spending a lot of time exploring, learning, and even keeping up with that complex and over-changing tool and technology landscape. And what I mean by that is think of those new programming languages like SDKs, APIs, frameworks that changes very often. And what this will all leave a developer is that they will have very less time available to develop and use their creativity to produce the differentiated or even business critical applications. So, in a journey of a developer, they try to overcome the time pressure by learning from each other or even by sharing code through developer forums, which often results in inadvertent copying of code that may unintentionally violate some of these open source software copyrights or even licenses. So this time pressure or code reuse from external sources and lack of widespread expertise in these continuously evolving software threads will often lead to security vulnerabilities that creep into these code bases. So these are some of the challenges that the developers across the industries are facing. Building secure code and even on focusing on the reliability aspect of the code. So in such a scenario, I want to introduce you to Amazon Code Whisperer. So Amazon Code Whisperer is an AI coding companion which is integrated to you in your IDE. It provides code recommendations based on the comments, which could be in the natural language and also the prior code. Because Code Whisperer can generate a lot of code for developers, it can accelerate the application development and frees up the developers to focus more on business critical applications that they were not able to get to before. Also, it creates more time so that they can focus on imagining and building next generation innovative experiences to their customers. Also, another important aspect being the security, Code Whisperer provides something called security scans that can be directly run in the IDE, which will provide the developer with potential vulnerabilities that are found and can be corrected by the developer in the application lifecycle, thereby completely lowering the cost, the time that it takes to fix it, or even the risk of application development. Without this specific code scan for security, imagine the code once being pushed, reviewed by some other team like security team, coming back and asking you to fix it, and you going back and forth. That takes a lot of time and effort with multiple teams. So how does Code Whisperer work? Amazon Code Whisperer works right from the developer's IDE. Developers can download and install the AWS Toolkit IDE extension and you can start coding. As you write code in your IDE, Code Whisperer automatically analyzes your code and comments. Code Whisperer understands the comments written in natural language, for example in English, and can generate multiple code suggestions in real time. Think of, for example, as you type, Code Whisperer provides suggestions to complete the comment itself too. The service suggests entire functions or even logical blocks of code which might consist of 10 to 15 lines of code directly in the IDE code editor. So this generated code is similar to how you would write code matching your style and your naming conventions. So you can quickly either accept the suggestions, by tab, for example, like using specific keys, or even look for more examples by navigating or even using, arrow keys, for example. Or you can say, I don't want to use the suggestions and write your own code. Pro tip, always review a code suggestion before you accept them, and you may need to edit it to ensure that it does exactly what you intended to do. So, trained on billions of lines of Amazon and open source code, Amazon Code Whisperer is an AI coding companion that helps you quickly write secure code by generating a whole line and a full function and these code suggestions in your IDE in real time. And these are based on the natural language comments and also the surrounding code. For example, Code Whisperer can automatically take a prompt. Think of maybe parsing a CSV file to pull out the second field or sort it based on descending order, and suggest appropriate code and unit tests as well. So this Code Whisperer is accessible as an extension from VS Code and IntelliJ, and also other native available in AWS Cloud9 or Lambda console. Today, Code Whisperer provides full function support for Python, Java, JavaScript, TypeScript, C#, and there are multiple other options like SageMaker and Jupyter, and you can explore the documentation towards the end. Code Whisperer can accelerate straightforward but time-consuming coding activities, as well as suggest code for unfamiliar tasks. And when I'm saying unfamiliar tasks, think of a new language or new APIs, SDKs that you have to utilize, and you have to go through the learning curve in the beginning to get the boilerplate up and running. The Code Whisperer is a general purpose coding companion that is fine-tuned to provide high-quality suggestions for AWS services too, and it could be incorporated by multiple personnel like developers, data scientists, database people, or even system engineers and administrators, for example. So how can you benefit while using Code Whisperer? Developer productivity. So you can accelerate any specific coding task by taking the advantage of the suggestions that are being generated by Code Whisperer. These AI generated coding suggestions enable you to have lower cognitive overhead. Example, there's lowered need to spend a lot of time that takes for you to explore through the documentation, figure out what the boilerplate code needs to be, and then add your business logic to it. And also it accelerates coding tasks so that the developers can have more time to focus on differentiated value creation. So they can quickly accomplish time-consuming but straightforward coding tasks, which are processing or storing some strings, managing the input files or send them to databases, or even think of the other side of things of complex coding tasks by using unfamiliar frameworks. For example, developers might not know one specific language and needs to code on using the new language. Another important aspect is that it's optimized for AWS as well. In addition to being a general purpose coding companion for arbitrary coding tasks, the Code Whisperer can be used to work with AWS APIs, commonly used ones like Amazon EC2, S3, Amazon S3, or AWS Lambda as well. So it suggests code which is more accurate and meets the AWS best standards for using its services. Let's explore different features and why Whisperer 2. So starting with the reference tracking. So once you have these suggestions, while you accept or even use them in your code suggestions, you can go and track the accepted suggestions and reference back whenever those are needed. And it also makes the developer more secure, think through the security principles too while developing the code, so that they can scan for the security, explore the results, and fix the issues that are being suggested. Another important aspect here at Amazon, we are committed to responsible AI by developing and helping our customers transform responsible AI from theory into practice. We are actively improving, refining, and expanding our responsible AI approach, and we are regularly working to advance the science behind it. We actively filter profanity, some PII data, for example, and are investing and innovating in other forms of bias filtering in these code suggestions. So in the code generation aspect, so you can use Code Whisperer, which can suggest some comment completions to help developers formulate the intent quickly, or you can leverage the Code Whisperer to automatically generate things like unit tests to reduce developer overhead. So these are high quality AWS code suggestions which are focused on better accuracy, follows the AWS best practices in using the services, and also the major aspect is matching the developer coding style included. For example, like think of developer specific naming conventions or variables that are being used in the code previously. So those the suggestions will be based on those conventions and the coding style of the developer as well. Reference tracking. Like I mentioned, trained on billions of lines of Amazon and open source code, Code Whisperer detects a code suggestion. When it provides a suggestion, it also detects where the suggestion is coming from, which could be similar to a particular open source training data, and can mark it with the specific repository as well as the licensing information of it. So it also tracks the accepted suggestion that was similar to training data so that you can provide appropriate attribution to it. If you need, so you can explore these code-based details from the suggestion generated and the links to the appropriate content of code. So in terms of security scanning, the secure scanning for vulnerabilities, this could be included, think of like top 10 in OWASP, Open Worldwide Application Security Project standards, for example, or even enforcement of some crypto library and even AWS secure best practices, and even more. So you saw the benefits of Code Whisperer. You have decided to utilize the Code Whisperer in your enterprise applications and make it available across the developers. So while you do it, how can you centrally manage the use of Code Whisperer and provide the access and also make sure the developers use it appropriately? So for that, AWS provides enterprise controls where you can take the advantage of AWS IAM Identity Center, and also you can create a single sign-on option for provisioning and managing the teams across through your AWS accounts. So you can set up even organizational policies. For example, think of creating an automatic filtering of code suggestions which are similar to open source code. So now let's look at some of these examples of how AWS customers are leveraging Code Whisperer for developer productivity. An example here is with Accenture's Velocity team, who was looking for ways to improve developer productivity and also use Code Whisperer to reduce their development efforts by 30%. Now, these teams, as they got the benefits of Code Whisperer and while they reduce the development efforts by 30%, they're focused more on improving security, quality of the code, and even the performance. SmugMug had other issue of distractions with the developers and the necessity to switch context to look up code samples and even documentation on the web. So this is a common example. So if I'm a developer, I struggle a lot with having a focused time without having any specific distractions. Where you once you go and figure out you need some help, so you go to another browser, expand, go for searching the similar aspects of code, finding the code appropriately, coming back, and having all of these distractions in the middle. So to tackle those issues, Amazon Code Whisperer keeps help the developer specifically focus on the code by automatically offering helpful suggestions in the IDE without leaving the editor. So that makes developer or any IT personnel more focused and productive by staying on the IDE itself. Another such example is where a developer who is a novice in a language, Python in this case, used Amazon Code Whisperer to program in Python in minutes when compared to opposed to hours. Just think of connecting to AWS account, expanding through S3 objects, S3 buckets and objects, and make sure it functions appropriately with their business logic. So all in all, to summarize, so we explored what are the specific challenges and issues currently with developer focused activities across the IT industry in general. And then we talked about the necessity of a AI coding companion that can boost the productivity of an entire organizations in building and exploring the usage of the coding companion into their workflows. We also talked about different features of Amazon Code Whisperer. We expanded on how you can start immediately by leveraging different features of Amazon Code Whisperer, like reference tracking, secure scanning, or even mitigating bias in the code. So to sum up and to follow up, we have multiple options here. For example, you can quickly get started by exploring the Code Whisperer from the documentation. So we have a couple of different options to start as a developer. So there is a free version, and then there is an enterprise version, which you can take leverage of today. And then there is a workshop for you where if you want to get hands-on, specifically in a different language, maybe Java or SQL or Python. So you can explore the workshop as well. And we have the third option where you can, there is a video of how Code Whisperer is being utilized in building a serverless application with Python. So that's pretty much from me for the Code Whisperer session. I hope you had some great times in thinking through how you can use the AI into your workflows and become productive. Thank you so much. My name is Kranthi Manchikanti again.